Tonight, let's talk about this whole concept of NPC and monster morale in tabletop role-playing games. Recently, someone had mentioned not letting fights slog on forever in combats that didn't feel like they meant anything. And I think the old-timer approach to this is probably still the best. I won't say Dungeons and Dragons specifically, but that's the game everybody's talking about, so we'll go with that. To the best of my knowledge, the new Monster Manual does not include morale statistics like the old ones did back in the old days. Because I know in 1st and 2nd edition we totally had monster morale. And what monster morale is, for those who might not be familiar with the term, is a roll to see if the monster breaks and flees from the combat. This is something that comes up in miniatures wargaming more than it does tabletop role-playing games, but I mean, just logically speaking, mobs of goblins aren't going to fight to the bitter end, to the last man, if they don't have to. You know, if a couple of guys go down and they look around and go, "Oh God, we're done, bye, see you later," you know, or try to negotiate a surrender, or "we give up," you know, or just, you know, drop their weapons and run, or whatever, you know. It used to be pretty easy to dice that sort of thing. Now in 3rd edition, I just kind of got to the point where I said, you know, they break and run, or they try to give up, or whatever. I mean, and everything's situational too, you know. I mean, some things can just fly off the map. Some things can just burrow into the ground and escape. Some things are just stuck out in the open with nowhere to run. I digress, you know. I think the main thing I wanted to talk about with this is Dragonbane, and how we have this lovely statistic in Dragonbane called willpower. And willpower, pretty much, I mean, it's a stat we can kind of slap on to any given stat block, whether it's an NPC or a monster. I just kind of go off of the default. You know, 10 or under, they succeed. 10 or over, or 11 or over, they run. And that's assuming it's not a situation where I can just kind of gauge it by eye. You know, I mean, when you've been running games long enough, it's not hard to kind of know, you know, when you've had it, and whether or not you're going to catch a break. Now, for newer GMs, yeah, that morale table or some sort of morale might be a really good idea. I can totally see why that got recommended, and while I don't think it's an all or nothing type of situation, I do think it solves the problem of combats slogging on forever while, you know, we go around and mop up the injured orcs or whatever, you know, or mop up the injured goblins, or whatever innocent creature we're picking on today. Like I said, Dragonbane, I mean, if you really have to add a willpower statistic, you know, some creatures, they're going to have a little more willpower. Dragons, I figure dragons have an 18. Demons, most of the bigger demons probably have an 18. You know, you get down into the goblins and orcs, you know, orcs are going to probably have a 12. They're pretty solid warrior army most of the time. Unless they've just recently been screwed over by another group of kin, in which case, yeah, their morale might be a little lower. And that's another factor to this too, as you know, there's a lot of things that play into morale. It's not just a black and white situation where, you know, or an all or nothing situation where, you know, nothing factors into it. You know, goblins have a bad day too. You know, we accidentally cut down their leader, so, you know, that might definitely factor into whether or not they make a break for it. In which case, you know, the roll's kind of moot anyway, I think. And that can be said about a lot of things. So that's just kind of my brief take on morale. I'm Jeff. This has been a late night soundbite, and I hope to see you again soon.